Hi, public health interns. This is a guide for completing your midterm report. Should be your halfway mark, and this should be complete when you've submitted when you've completed 60 hours, or at least by the deadline listed in the syllabus. First, you'll want to include your name, and next you'll want to include the agency at which you're completing your internship. Again, this is similar to the work plan, that you're not restricted to the size of the text box. If you continue to let's see. Let's do like words. Okay, there we go. If you are going to type out, it will just show that will extend that text box. You're not limited by it. Next, if it says list, you'll want to include bulleted list. For example, here it says list specific task. Under that, you'll want to say, and most of those have a bullet already included there, you'll see, but include those bullets, don't delete those where they're included. Lastly, just make sure that the font is Times New Roman's 12-point size for all boxes. So for the first thing you'll want to add is your hours completed. And if you've not completed 60 hours, this is your opportunity to explain why and a plan for catching up. You may have a big project or a big event that happens in the fall. You can simply explain this and explain about how many hours you plan to complete per week later on. If maybe you got behind from missing earlier in the semester, or maybe you didn't anticipate there wasn't a lot of work in those first few weeks, just explain your plan for catching up. And that includes how many hours per week. And if there are certain projects per week that you're going to work with this project, maybe you're going to work with a different project. So how are you going to catch up? This will kind of help you think through what that will look like so that you don't end up in those last few weeks trying to do too much, especially during a time when you're going to have other test exams and projects for other classes. So most of your points from your midterm report are going to come from your work plan projects. You'll want to go back to your work plan and find each of those, that main project number 1 and number 2, include the title and the percentage complete. So the percent listed there, let's say you've gone through the task and you notice that you've completed 7 of the 10 tasks that you originally submitted. So you've completed 70%. This is where those tasks under objectives, action items that you included in your work plan, include them here. If they've been completed, put complete. If they've not been completed, you can put them here. And describe your plan for completing these by the deadline you included in your work plan. If they have gotten off the timeline that was in your work plan, also explain this and your plan for getting back on schedule, or how you plan to complete those. Same for project 2. And then added projects. So we know that often projects kind of emerge over the course of this semester, that your preceptor may come in and say, actually, I want you to work on this. And some of those you may have already complete. If so, this is your place to put this. For each of those projects, you'll include a name and a brief description, how much of the project you have complete, and action items for that project. If you have already completed it, you can just state the date that you completed it by. For ongoing projects, provide just a brief timeline for when those action items will be completed. So if you are going to be creating an educational material for the Special Olympics classes, and you've been asked to take on a new class of students, you'll include the project name and education courses. And I noticed in typing that wasn't Times New Roman. So here's an example. Go in, make sure that's Times New Roman 12, education courses. And then we'll say the percentage complete. So we'll say 70% of those have been complete. And what were some of those tasks that you were going to well, let's see, I didn't mean to, I'm going to delete that row. Okay, so education courses that you wanted to complete. Well, this is a good example of this. So I'm going to actually make that one the heading. Okay. So then your tasks are going to be develop course, practice. Maybe it's you're going to practice with one of get it approved by your preceptor. And you'll practice, and then we'll present course to 10 students. And so for each of those, let's say this one's by a certain date. So that could be by whatever week it was, but try to be as specific as possible by date for each of those. And so for this one, maybe that you could say completed and then the date. And then if it's not, you could say by. What date will be by. All right. Next, these are added projects that you will do in the future. So maybe your preceptor came in and said, I want to add a new project to your list, but you haven't started on it yet. For those, include the name and the brief description and your task and action items for the project along with deadlines. So similar to what you would have just done for the added projects, but instead now you want to, or for the complete or ongoing, for the future, since these haven't been started yet, you'll want to include a deadline, deadlines for each task. For each of these, maybe this doesn't apply. You can just put NA for not applicable in each of these text boxes if nothing has been added. However, if we see on your time logs that there's something that doesn't correspond with your work plan projects, then we will ask more about that. So that is what we're looking for here, if any of that has been added. All right, and good luck, good job. You've made it halfway through the semester.